What's the first thing you would do when you and your son finally arrive at the holiday of your dreams on a gorgeous remote island? Well, you would head to the nearest pristine golden beach, of course, and get yourself set up for the day in the hope that you won't be disturbed during your day of pure relaxation.
Oh, for fuck's sake. You know, I can never enjoy anything, can I? It's obviously some nudist beach, isn't it? You know, I didn't put trunks on, did I? I'm not going to walk around with my cock and bollocks out.
Well, that plan went out the window pretty early into my holiday, because not only did I realise that my shitbag son Timmy had gone missing, but these island locals weren't exactly your typical island folk either, and they didn't seem very welcoming to tourists, like, at all. In fact, they were just plain rude. So as an experienced Brit abroad, you try to make the most of these situations, find the local boozer, get shit-faced, find a secluded non-nudist beach just to crunk some of your own tunes in peace before embracing the island's culture and befriending the locals with your new positive, can-do attitude. The Forest is one of my all-time favourite survival games, and the standout reason for that is because there's a worthwhile plotline to invest in with multiple endings. This reason alone is never enough to make a survival game stand shoulder to shoulder with other survival classics, but giving players that meaningful end goal with immersive and highly disturbing environmental lore scattered all over a huge island should be a standard inclusion in survival games. I learnt to live without a story in most survival games of the past, with my own imagination being the limitation of my story, but there's not much wiggle room to imagine a plot outside of I must survive in this area I've been dropped into. The Forest does exactly that though. You're dropped into an area that you must survive in, and even though developers Endnight haven't ignored the fundamentals of what makes a good survival game, they went above and beyond what most developers invest in world building, and especially from a narrative point of view. We're not spoon-fed this story either. There's an immersive sense of realism to exploring the island's surface, making notes in your journal as you go before finding your first cave entrance and realising there's a whole underground network of haunting and intertwining cave tunnels that are home to some terrifying cannibals and deranged mutants. And while you explore this island and the caves beneath, you'll start to piece together the story behind these cannibals and mutants, finding various clues like magazine cutouts, photographs, videotapes, evidence of previous survivors, religious literature and children's drawings. And believe me, the answers you'll find are gruesomely awesome. Like with many survival games, building yourself a base is a huge aspect to the game, but in all honesty, it's totally optional. You could play for 10 to 20 hours just exploring the island and complete the game without building one significant structure. I highly advise you do invest some time into building though, especially if you're like me and you enjoy it and you can deal with the grind of manually chopping down trees and finding various ways to streamline the transport of your logs back to your base, because before you know it, you'll be hooked and you'll have completely lost track of time while you're crafting the most pointless and unnecessary decorations, bringing into question whether this even is survival at all costs. Like, are you building a base or are you actually building a home?
I'm sat in a toilet that I've made that I know I'll be sat here later having a shit thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Depending on your difficulty setting, you'll be left to your own devices during the early days on the island, figuring out where you want to set up shop, but make no mistake, eventually the cannibals will start to come. Their behaviour is not like anything I've seen in a game before, because they don't just attack on sight, they just come and watch you. It's creepy as shit, just minding your own business, crafting a little houseboat, and some naked bloke is just stood there staring. They'll start to get closer and closer to you before turning up with more numbers the next time. Maybe one will even take a little swing at you before running off again, and before you know it, you've got an army of cannibals probing for weaknesses and hunting you down day in, day out. That's where picking the best location and building some defences come in. It's vital if you're planning to build a base for the long term. You can even build these human effigies of the cannibals' body parts to send horrific and slightly excessive warnings to the locals that you're not to be messed with. But not only do the cannibals attack you, eventually they'll send out these rhino-esque mutants or a collection of flying penises that'll obliterate your walls in no time. And during this whole time you've been faffing around, building yourself a new beachside home, mind you, you've been earning the Father of the Year award, totally neglecting your son who's in desperate need of his father's assistance.
Oh my god, I'm communicating with nature. Hey Dad, can I talk to you? Not now, son.
I love the inventory menu. I mean, it's probably the greatest inventory menu of all time. In fact, this inventory menu needs an award. Inventory Menu Design of the Year award. And you know what? It doesn't even work that well when your backpack is jam-packed with stuff, but just look at it. I'm getting carried away slightly here, but it's so cool to physically see all my items when crafting an item in my backpack. Green Hell has something similar too, but alongside this inventory menu, the crafting on the whole is great and really expansive. There's some key items that are essential to progressing the story. There's other items that are equally important that also help exploration, like the rebreather and the climbing axe, but there's so many things to craft on top of this. Finding one item can open up a whole new list of crafting options too. They're all nicely tied into the environment, whether you're infected from not washing off the blood of your enemies, needing aloe vera mixture to heal, or you need multiple animal skins to craft a warm suit to head up into the snowy mountains, or getting lucky and finding a flashlight maybe with some batteries to combine. But not only that, now you can duct tape that flashlight to your weapons, which comes in pretty handy when fighting off swarms of cannibals in an ill-lit cave. Using armour is probably the most important key to survival, because even though there's the typical stamina bar as well as hunger and thirst to manage, it's actually pretty heavy on the combat aspect of the game. You'll be fighting a fair bit, especially heading into the late game, and crafting enough of the various types of armour is the difference between life and death. Either burning down a cannibal's body and using their bones to craft an armour piece, or a thick meaty skin of a mutant, or even using a lizard's skin to craft an armour piece that'll increase your stealth and therefore decrease your visibility if you prefer to approach sneakily. The forest is full of tiny intricate details and systems that are so much fun to learn, and going in blind is all part of the fun. I'm jealous of anyone crash landing on this island and experiencing the game for the first time, and if you know of a fellow survival enthusiast looking to explore with, there's a co-op system here too. One area I thought that was pretty weak in the game was an area that's often weak in a lot of survival games, and that's the combat. Aiming is floaty, and although you can figure the basic principles of the mechanics fairly easily, even without the use of a crosshair and aiming to account for the drop-off in trajectory, it's just not that satisfying. The enemy animations are limited and their hit feedback feels so bland at times, even when you eventually find weapons like a flintlock pistol, a chainsaw and the katana. None of them feel that good to wield, and this is one area I'd love to see Endnight address in the upcoming Sons of the Forest, which I can't wait for, by the way, planned for October of this year, and it looks insane. Aside from that, the visuals too are looking a little dated, especially seeing as this released back in 2014, and again, looking forward to seeing a much needed fresh lick of paint in the Sons of the Forest. There's a ton of bad collision detection too and clipping, but all in all, if you're a survival fan and still haven't gotten around to playing the Forest yet, it's absolutely worth your time. Even if you're not a survival fan, as I explained before, the exploration of the island and the narrative backstory behind these cannibals and mutants makes this worth a playthrough alone, especially considering we're given the option to totally ignore certain aspects that are typical to the survival genre. Where would you guys rank the Forest in your favourite survival games of all time? Are you looking forward to the Sons of Forest like I am? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.